Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
It's June 22nd, 2026. We're studying Bhagavad-gita as it is, chapter 13, entitled Nature, the Enjoyer, and Consciousness. Text 23. Upadrashtanumanta.
Upadrashtanumanta.
Cha.
Cha.
Bharta.
Bharta.
Bhokta.
Bhokta.
Maheshvara.
Maheshvara.
Paramatmeti.
Paramatmati.
Chapyukto.
Chapyukto.
Dehismin.
Dehismin.
Purusha.
Purusha.
Para.
Para.
Upadrashtanumanta cha.
Upadrashtanumanta cha.
Bharta Bhokta Maheshvara.
Bharta Bhokta Maheshvara.
Paramatmeti Chapyukto.
Paramatmati Chapyukto.
Dehismin Purusha Para.
Dehismin Purusha Para.
Upadrashtanumanta cha.
Upadrashtanumanta cha.
Bharta Bhokta Maheshvara.
Bharta Bhokta Maheshvara.
Paramatmeti Chapyukto.
Paramatmati Chapyukto.
Dehismin Purusha Para.
Dehismin Purusha Para.
Upadrashtanumanta cha.
Upadrashtanumanta cha.
Bharta Bhokta Maheshvara.
Bharta Bhokta Maheshvara.
Paramatmeti Chapyukto.
Paramatmati Chapyukto.
Dehismin Purusha Para.
Dehismin Purusha Para.
Upadrashtanumanta cha.
Upadrashtanumanta cha.
Bharta Bhokta Maheshvara.
Bharta Bhokta Maheshvara.
Paramatmeti Chapyukto.
Paramatmeti Chapyukto.
Dehismin Purusha Para.
Dehismin Purusha Para.
Upadrashtanumanta cha.
Upadrashtanumanta cha.
Bharta Bhokta Maheshvara.
Bharta Bhokta Maheshvara.
Paramatmati Chapyukto.
Paramatmeti Chapyukto.
Dehismin Purusha Para.
Dehismin Purusha Para.
Upadrashtanumanta cha.
Upadrashtanumanta cha.
Bharta Bhokta Maheshvara.
Bharta Bhokta Maheshvara.
Paramatmati Chapyukto.
Paramatmeti Chapyukto.
Dehismin Purusha Para.
Dehismin Purusha Para.
Upadrashtanumanta cha.
Upadrashtanumanta cha.
Bharta Bhokta Maheshvara.
Bharta Bhokta Maheshvara.
Paramatmati Chapyukto.
Paramatmeti Chapyukto.
Dehismin Purusha Para.
Dehismin Purusha Para. Upadrashta.
Upadrashta.
Overseer.
Overseer.
Anumanta.
Anumanta.
Permitter.
Permitter.
Cha.
Cha.
Also.
Also.
Bharta.
Bharta.
Master.
Master.
Bhokta.
Bhokta.
Supreme Enjoyer.
Supreme Enjoyer.
Maheshvara.
Maheshvara.
The Supreme Lord.
The Supreme Lord.
Paramatma.
Paramatma.
Super Soul.
Super Soul.
E.T.
E.T.
Also.
Also.
Cha.
Cha.
And.
And.
Api Ukta.
Api Ukta.
Is said.
Is said.
Dehe.
Dehe.
In this body.
In this body.
Asmin.
Asmin.
This.
This.
Purusha.
Purusha.
Enjoyer.
Enjoyer.
Para.
Para.
Transcendental.
Transcendental.
Translation. Yet in this body there is another, a transcendental enjoyer who is the Lord, the supreme proprietor who exists as the overseer and permitter, and who is known as the Supersoul. So, Supersoul, we see that term right in the Sanskrit, Paramatma, that we are the Atman sitting right next to us in the region of the heart. There is the Paramatma, the Suprema. So we can think of it as like the self is within the body, self with small s, and also within the body there's self with a capital S. That's the Paramatma. Purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. It is stated here that the Supersoul, who is always with the individual soul, is the representation of the Supreme Lord. He is not an ordinary living entity. Because the monist philosophers take the knower of the body to be one, they think that there is no difference between the Supersoul and the individual soul. To clarify this, the Lord says that He is the representation of Paramatma in everybody. He is different from the individual soul. He is para, transcendental. The individual soul enjoys the activities of a particular field, but the supersoul is present, not as finite enjoyer nor as one taking part in bodily activities, but as the witness, overseer, permitter, and supreme enjoyer. His name is Paramatma, not Atma, and He is transcendental. It is distinctly clear that the Atma and Paramatma are different. The Supersoul, the Paramatma, has legs and hands everywhere, but the individual soul does not. And because He is the Supreme Lord, He is present within to sanction the individual soul's desiring material enjoyment. Without the sanction of the Supreme Soul, the individual soul cannot do anything. The individual is Bhakta, or the sustained, and he is Bhukta, or the maintainer. There are innumerable living entities, and he is staying in them as a friend. The fact is that individual living entities are eternally part and parcel of the Supreme Lord, and both of them were very intimately related as friends. But the living entity has the tendency to reject the sanction of the Supreme Lord and act independently in an attempt to dominate the Supreme Nature. And because he has this tendency, he is called the marginal energy of the Supreme Lord. The living entity can be situated either in the material energy or the spiritual energy. As long as he is conditioned by the material energy, the Supreme Lord, as his friend, the Supersoul, stays with him just to get him to return to the spiritual energy. The Lord is always eager to take him back to the spiritual energy, but due to his minute independence, the individual entity is continually rejecting the association of spiritual light. This misuse of independence is the cause of his material strife in the conditioned nature. The Lord, therefore, is always giving instruction from within and from without. From without, he gives instructions, as stated in Bhagavad-gita, and from within he tries to convince him that his activities in the material field are not conducive to real happiness. Just give it up and turn your faith toward me, then you will be happy, he says. Thus, the intelligent person who places his faith in the Paramatma, or the Supreme Personality of Godhead, begins to advance toward a blissful eternal life of knowledge. Om Anganatimirandasya Ginanjana Shalakaya Chakshuranmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Svayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Svapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Utapadakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Saganaragnatan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitan Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Saganalalita Shri Vishakan Vitamscha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radhakanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Karange Radhe Vrindavaneshware Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vachakalpa Tuyubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyeva Cha Patitanan Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gavani Pacharini Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Desha Tarini. Bhagavad-gita chapter 13 entitled Nature, the Enjoyer and Consciousness, text 23. Upadrash Tanumantaja Bharta Bhokta Maheshwara Paramatmiti Tapyukto Desmin Purusha Para. Yet in this body there is another, a transcendental enjoyer who is the Lord, the Supreme Proprietor, who exists as the overseer and permitter, and who is known as the Supersoul. Hare Krishna. So, here in chapter 13, right towards the start of the chapter, there's the Krishna establishes that in the body there are two souls, the Atma and the Paramatma. Earlier in the chapter, Krishna is saying, Kshetra Gyam Chapi Mam Vidi Sarva Kshetreshu Bharata Kshetra Cheta Gyanam Gyayor Yatat Gyanamatama Mama. That yes, in this body there's another enjoyer in here. So this is the super soul. We talk. This is the supreme facilitator. I mean, in a sense, it's Krishna. At the same time, Krishna is not directly getting involved with material energy, and so this super soul. This is. If we're going to get into some technical terminology, this is the an expansion of the Kshirodakashayi Vishnu. In morning classes in recent weeks, we're there in Canto 3, chapters 8 and 9, and that talks about Brahma being born from the lotus of Vishnu. That's the Garbhodakashayi Vishnu. From Garbhodakashayi Vishnu comes Kshirodakashayi Vishnu, and the Super Soul, not just in the heart of all living entities, but Adantarasta, Paramanu Chantarasta, in every atom. Prabhupada deconstructs it further. He says, okay, in every atom, but he said, okay, now you got subatomic particles, protons and electrons, and then we can subdivide it into gluons or quarks or whatever there is now. And Prabhupada says, as fine and fine as you go, you got that supreme indwelling self. So the super soul is the self of the self. The very source, we use that term, the very substratum of the very ground of all existence, whether of the soul or material energy, material particles, and if we reduce it just because everything's energy, and at the very source of everything is that super soul, and that's where, so like this. So that's the supreme facilitator, according to the desire of the soul, our intention, and so we have like clear intention, consciousness, and the result. So the mechanism of that, Hare Krishna. So clear intention, consciousness, and the result. So the mechanism is the super soul. The super souls. We're not capable to conceal anything from super soul. I might be able to conceal from this one or that one, but God in the heart knows what's going on, knows what we're thinking. That can be frightening. Oh, there's a person who knows like everything going on within us. Oh my God. And so so all our desires, and conscious and less than conscious, and so the super soul is reciprocating with our desires through material or spiritual energies, through the different modes of nature, the different spiritual shaktis according to our desires. So this is the supreme facilitator reciprocating with our desires. And okay, so this is where like this I'm in coaching. Just yesterday I was conducting a session, and we were talking about the coaching process. And so all of the, whether it's facilitation, coaching, all of the processes, methods, skills, principles, it's all meant to enhance Paramatma connection. when we say the highest guidance within, God in the heart, the deepest intuition, higher intelligence, whatever term we want to use, all of the reflective listening, open-ended questions, immediacy, all the processes, can't, not, willing to, red, black game. It's all meant to support the soul to turn towards self in self-realization and to turn towards supersoul, Paramatma. And that's the highest guidance within. That's true shelter and security. That's the ultimate relationship connection that can never be disturbed. Prabhupada emphasizes Krishna, yet in this body there is another, a transcendental enjoyer. Transcendental means not disturbed by the fluctuations of material energy, the disturbances, the elation and the dejection and the honor and the dishonor. So Supersoul is transcognitive, transcendental to all of that. And that's that internal wisdom. So if we think, what is intuition? How does clear intention work? How does consciousness and the result work? Well, the Supersoul is the transcendental personal mechanism of that. And so, so in coaching or facilitation, we endeavor to be relentlessly person-centered, trusting each soul as the expert in their life. And in that coaching conversation yesterday, we unpacked what's that mean. Trusting everyone is the expert in their life. Well, what's that mean? It means that we know that everyone has Supersoul in the very core of their heart, in the very core of their existence. That's what it means. And we do too. And so we might sense that, like, okay, not that we take our sense as absolute truth, but we sense, okay, and we sense that you're alienated from that highest guidance within. And we might say that, we might simply reflect, we might share feedback. And so we sense, okay, yeah, this is, am I or whoever, the client, whatever, the participant, the friend, to what extent am I connected with and living from that sublime wisdom from Supersoul? To what extent am I living from different voices within that are not the Supersoul? There's a text in 18th chapter. Krishna says, Mat chitta sarvadurgani mat prasada tarishyasi atachet tvamahankaram nashroshyasi vinanksyasi. And so Krishna says to Arjuna, so if you hear, he said, if you act from Supersoul, hearing Supersoul, you'll easily cross over the ocean of material existence. But that's because sometimes we say, yes, just listen to that voice within. So most of those voices within will give like really bad advice most of the time. No, the voice within. Oh yeah, that voice within, that's gotten me into a lot of trouble consistently. Okay, yes, so that's the thing. So we have different voices within, and so the spiritual intelligence, Bhagavad-gita, spiritual intelligence, that's Supersoul, and external representation of Supersoul is Bhagavad-gita. External representation of Supersoul is the Guru. I'm putting the in, because there's many gurus. Places in Bhagavad-gita, Bhagavatam talks about 24 gurus. The tree is our guru, what tolerance. The dog is our guru, what loyalty. And so many gurus, and we're all gurus for each other in different ways, and inspire anyone who inspires us in spiritual life. We're all gurus for each other. And then there's the guru in the singular. That's the guru. Just like this morning, we sung Yasya Prashada Bhagavat Prashado Yasya Prashada Nagati Kutopi Dayam Stuvam Tasya Yashastri Sanjam Bande Guru Shri Charanaravindam. That without the grace of the Guru in whom we endeavor to place absolute trust, to whom we endeavor to surrender unconditionally, without the grace of the Guru, then we don't progress in Krishna consciousness. We don't progress in super soul connection. So there's Guru in the plural and there's Guru in the singular. Important principle there. And described extensively, for example, in the very first chapter of the 62 chapters of Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita is entitled The Spiritual Masters. And there's just, it's a whole treasure trove of realized knowledge about the Guru principles, and as is Bhagavad-gita. Bhagavad-gita gives some summary, and then Bhagavatam and Chaitanya Charitamrita expand that and go deeper. And so, so Guru, Paramatma is also known as Atmeshvar or Chaitya Guru, the Guru within the core of our consciousness, the core of our heart, and then external manifestations. Srila Prabhupada, Bhagavad-gita, Prabhupada's books, Prabhupada's lectures, and so to make distinctions. What's the voice of the false ego? What's the voice of the lower self? These are also voices inside. What's the voice of my monkey mind? It's a voice inside. It must be glorious. Oh, wait a second. So this is so to make those distinctions, what's the voice of super soul? And Krishna says to Arjuna, if you listen to some of those other voices inside, you're just going to be drowning in the whirlpool of the ocean of material existence. Yes, it's so that's our choice. That's our choice. We can be hearing and acting from the voice of Paramatma in the heart, giving us the highest guidance, or the voice of our material ego, which is dedicated to reinforce misidentification of the self with the material body, or the voice of material mind, material intelligence. So we had an experience this morning, right? So just before japa. Well, I'll say that this morning, okay, so we had Bhakti and Rosemary led us in Gurvastakam, Samsara Dava, Nalali Deloka, and then I led Nrsingadev mantras. And then typically before japa, we read from some chant, Be Happy, or an earlier version of that from the 1980s, Sri Namamrita. Oh, that's an interesting coincidence too. That's the name of Yogeshwar's son who leads the podcast. Very interesting. So typically we'll read something directly about chanting Hare Krishna. But I saw, and I don't know how it got there. I'm not reading this. I'm not, but it was there. Oh, okay. So this is Volume 2 of the Adi Leela of Chaitanya Charitamrita. So I opened it right at the beginning of the 9th chapter of Chaitanya Charitamrita, and it's a few verses where Krishna's Kaviraj Goswami speaks about writing transcendental literature. It's not ordinary writing. We call it. It's like transpersonal authorship, revealing eternal truth. And then he writes about the consciousness of that, and I just happened to read that. And then Lakshmi Priya shared, well, that's interesting, because this isn't a topic that we hear about much. It appears in a few places, but we don't hear about it. And thus yesterday you happened to be listening to some podcasts, and the speaker happened to be talking about Vaishnav transcendental authorship. So we can safely assume that is Supersoul. That is Supersoul. It's transcognitive, transrational, translinear. Okay.
I don't want to interrupt you, but just to continue the theme.
Please.
My notes back here in chapter 21 of the fourth canto.
Yeah.
Are about, it appears to be written in ordinary language, but it's not ordinary language. So this, I didn't even remember that until you just started talking. I'm like, wait, I just read something about this. See how
Fourth
it
canto.
evaporates. But yeah, it's kind of, so something's coming up in this whole theme about writing and the language and the transcendental power of the language. Not that I'm writing anything transcendental, but I write a lot.
Yeah.
So we were just, the whole thing just kind of surfaced up this morning. Thank you for.
Thanks for that.
Together.
All these connections
Yeah.
must
It's
be
that
paramount.
super soul, yeah. I mean, it's hard to deny it.
It would be hard to deny. Yes.
Yeah, it's definitely. Well, I don't think there's a lot of ego in there, but it might be.
Hard to deny. I'll mention in the booklet Srila Prabhupada Shastra Perspectives on the Infallibility of Srila Prabhupada. We quote many things from Srila Prabhupada about transcendental literature like that, and so so that would be an example of super soul connection. And so sometimes the jiva, the spirit soul, the atma, we're marginal energy. Sometimes metaphorically that's compared to the beach. Okay, so like there's the ocean and then there's the land. And so the beach is sometimes land and sometimes it's ocean. And so similarly, we can be secure in the land of transcendence when we choose it, and also we can be overwhelmed by the material energy, by the ocean of material energy, depending on what we do with our freedom of choice. Depending on what we do with our freedom of choice. So that's what it means. We're Tatasta Shakti. And in very closure of Bhagavad-gita, Krishna, he says to Arjuna, Vimishe Tadya Sheshena Yate Tasi Tatakuru. He says, do as you wish to do. I've spoken this profound philosophical treatise. So there's no force. You get to use your freedom of choice. And as many of us were recently in a 4-day foundational seminar, and the whole principle of grunges and payoffs. In one sense, the core payoff is I get to avoid responsibility. I get to, as the song goes, freedom from choice is what you want. Freedom of choice is what you got. Okay, so that it's material existence. And 13th chapter, that goes into personal responsibility, and it really reveals and exposes personal responsibility and what we do with it, and how we try to pretend we don't have it, and then we get sucked up into the machine of material energy, yatra rudani mayaya. And so supreme facilitator, and so it's, again, if we look at facilitation or coaching, it's not essentially about making a good reflection or a well-worded, open-ended question or appropriate self-disclosure. The essence is Paramatma connection, and if yelling at someone or giving them advice or being harsh and mean or everything on the potential roadblocks list, if that's going to support Paramatma connection, then that is perfect. That is perfect spiritual facilitation and coaching. Just statistically speaking, those things on the potential roadblock list, statistically speaking, when we use them, they tend to roadblock self-connecting with self and self-connecting with Paramatma. Some of you have heard me in different capacities give give examples of like I've even used racial slurs to support someone in their super soul connection, and she really appreciated it. You've heard that one?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But tell it again, please.
You haven't? You haven't? Oh, okay. This was a few years ago, and it was online Zoom video coaching, and I at one point, okay, so I experienced frustration, transcendental, of course, and at one point, so I said to the client, I said, You sound like an old complaining Jewish woman. I said that. She was shocked. Because normally I calmly reflect her emotion and go, you sound like an old complaining Jewish woman. She was shocked, unsettled, disturbed. And then there was silence. And she said, I don't want to be like my mother. I don't want to be like my mother. And then she said, David, whenever I sound that way, if I ever sound that way again, point it out to me. That's not how I want to be with my partner, with my children, with my son-in-law, like that. So, given as an example, so David advocated in facilitation and coaching and in giving Bhagavad-gita class, use racial slurs. No. I'm advocating, be however we need to be to support super soul connection. And probably 99.99% of the time, racial slurs won't help. But I'm giving a rare example that gets to the essence.
And you had trust established.
We had trust, yeah. She'd been through the Sophatov Advanced Seminar, we'd had a lot of coaching, and we were around the same bodily age, and
same race.
Thank you. I'm trying to figure out here how to see who's saying. Just a second. I'm a little. I changed something on my Zoom technology. I want to figure out who just commented. That was Rukmini. Thank you, Rukmini.
Okay, wonderful.
So Rukmini can relate. Yeah. But hello, Rukmini. Welcome. Glad you're here. Rukmini, did you come on to Zoom today? Fine, no problem?
Yep, it's
Okay.
good.
I saw an email from someone said, oh, the password wasn't working or something like that. Okay. Well, glad you're here, Rukmini. Thanks for your comment. Okay. Same race as Rukmini said. So that's an example.
I think you did that to me one time in coaching horses.
I'm not sure if you should reveal this.
But I don't mind sharing that you pointed out to me one time when you're gonna start getting serious about this when you're in your 60s or something. Like you said something like that. Like it could be if you just took that piece out of it. But I've been coaching with you for years, and
it could look like ageism, just
and I
like
was
there's
getting
races.
ready to get initiated, and you're like, what do you he said he's used the word sauntering, and it stung because I thought of that as just some like lazy passive kind of, and when exactly what I was doing, I was just kind of thinking I had like lifetimes to do this, and so yeah, he came down. And
It was heavy. It was heavy.
Yeah, it was a visual that was like me being an old woman still indecisive.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't think I want that.
Yeah.
So I know I had to big realization at that moment and took some bigger steps. Yeah, so I can relate to what you're saying.
Thanks for that, Lakshmi. So, yeah, all based on the container of trust.
And I still solder sometimes.
Definitely, since that session, I experienced you, relatively speaking, sprinting with enthusiasm.
I'm glad you don't live in Melrose.
I see. Just
That's
what
why Krishna hasn't let me out here either. I
I see.
That's
One,
mostly good. Mostly not.
once in a while, I'll be there in Melrose, and then you're putting on the sprinting.
Well, I spread a lot. But...
Thanks for your comment. Yeah. So that's right. So like, okay, so we cultivate expertise in all these skills and principles, and we can see, like, if we look at Prabhupada's conversations, lectures, letters, he uses them. At the same time, we could find many. He's not using the skills, and he's always 100% infallibly living the essence, and because like often there was like someone would meet Prabhupada, and sometimes he would be real heavy on a first meeting without 5 years of coaching, and he could be so heavy, and so, what's this? And they might not agree, and they might get unsettled, but they wouldn't take offense at him because they sensed infallibly, this is like a really pure person who really cares about me, but I still don't agree, and okay, like that. And so Prabhupada encourages anusharana, to follow the principle, discourages anukarana, to blindly try to imitate the details. So we don't want to imitate Prabhupada's boldness, but we want to follow the principle. We want to follow, and for us to serve the essence, which is the principle, super soul connection, then it's often helpful. At least 4 or 5 reflections of content and emotion before an open-ended question. If we follow a question, and if we share self-disclosure, so we have all these, rules of the road for facilitation and coaching to create that container of trust, and we want to bring as much purity as possible to our lives in coaching and facilitation and relationships, and that's with Srila Prabhupada, sometimes he wouldn't do the externals, and he's serving the essence, and he has a depth of complete purity that naturally inspires trust, like trust and like just complete, like, this is a real authority. This is a real authority. So the principle that Krishna established, because here's the thing, conditioned life means we're not super soul connected. Now it's not yes or no, it's not a binary, just like no super soul connection or 100% all the time, full super soul, it's not a binary. To the extent that we've implicated ourselves in rajas and tamas, then it's pretty fuzzy connection, muddled, static. The static metaphor, just like, okay, like the radio, the channels, like, I can barely hear. But conditioned life means that I'm thinking the static is divine guidance. If it's within me, but if it's the mind or false ego, it's not really within. It's still external to the self. It's still bahir. It's not really. It's within the gross body, but it's still external to the soul, into the subtle material body. And to the extent we're associating with sattva, then there's relatively super soul connection. There is that highest intuition that is pure in true spiritual intelligence. And then transcendence, okay, that's full super soul connection, following super soul connection. And then Krishna set up the system. So conditioned existence, material conditioned existence means that we've deliberately forgotten Krishna. We want to alienate ourselves from Krishna within the heart, or Krishna in Goloka Vrindavan, which gets even more to the substratum of the substratum. Krishna in Goloka Vrindavan, the source of the super soul. Goloka Evani Satya Kilatma Bhutto. So, right. So then, conditioned existence, let's have some humble humility that I'm not personally connected with Krishna or super soul in the heart. And then Krishna gives us a process, sadhana bhakti, to increasingly become connected. And a key part of that process is accepting, following, serving a guru. Now, I don't use that word much because it's just like there's so many connotations and misunderstanding, but I'm using it the way it's meant to be used. So again, if we deconstruct it, guru means teacher. Guru means heavy. Guru means heavy. Right. So I think it was Valerie who somehow inspired a David Wolf birthday program. Mm-hmm. And then I think in that I mentioned about who's your guru? I like your poodle. It's become like that, right? So in other words, no, guru is heavy. That's like we're endeavoring to represent the guru with approaches like, you sound like an old complaining Jewish woman. Mm-hmm. You seem to be sauntering like that. Guru is heavy. Means just like our material attachments, we're feeling the weight of them dragging us down, preventing us from being joyful. And so again, there's guru in the plural, anyone who inspires us, not even necessarily in human form. The tree can be guru, and there's examples of the prostitute being a guru, and okay. Within the guru in the singular, Yasya Devi Prabhakti Yata Devi Thakur Tasita Kachitayata Bhakshate Padmana. That's a verse from the Vedas. I think Padma Purana, something like that, maybe Sveta Shvatara Upanishad. Prabhupada quotes it a lot, that we progress with full trust we develop realization of the import of the Vedic knowledge through full trust in Krishna and Guru. So Krishna set up a system. Krishna says, one who sees himself as my devotee is not my devotee. One who regards themselves as the servant of my devotee, that's my devotee. That's my devotee. So Krishna set up a system. You come to me through my pure devotee. Following Srila Prabhupada's example, we give the example like spectacles, eyeglasses. And so I can think, let's say my eyes were like a conscious person in themselves. I want a direct relationship with the print in the book. No intermediary, direct. I'm not just role-playing here. I can't read anything. So it could be said that these glasses are in between, they're in between the eyes and the print. And because they're perfectly crafted lenses, the glasses enhance my direct relationship with the print. We could expand that analogy in a more sophisticated way, that a telescope. We think, I want a direct relationship with the stars in the sky. Okay, I can look in the night sky. But if I look through a telescope, we can say that there's a series of finely crafted lenses. And because they're perfectly crafted, those, in a sense, they're between my eyes and the stars, but they enhance my direct relationship. So similarly, well, the pure devotee Now, speaking generally, that's the system Krishna set up. You come to me through my pure acharya, my pure devotee. Tadviti pranipatena pripashnena seve upadekshanti tekenam ganinas tattvadarshina. Approach the spiritual master. Again, there's the, and then there's the plural spiritual master, the spirit, plural gurus. And my role is I endeavor to be a guru in the plural. Right? My role is not to be the link to Srila Prabhupada. My role is to, Prabhupada says, to bring someone to Krishna consciousness requires spilling gallons of blood. Like, requires heavy lifting, profound commitment for someone in material conditioned life to dedicate themselves to the Sankirtan mission, to Bhagavad-gita in a true way, not just lip service. So my role is to support, encourage through my examples, words, for whoever. Yaridekitayaka Krishna Pradesh Amaragya Guru Hanatari Desh. For whoever to develop your direct connection, your direct relationship with Srila Prabhupada. And that means you're cultivating, you're establishing your direct relationship with Supersoul. Non-different. So your personal relation. And then my role is to encourage, support, challenge, be heavy, be loving, to whatever, whatever capacity I have, to continue to support you and to strengthen that personal relationship with Srila Prabhupada. That means that personal relationship with Super Soul and Lord. How can I know what Super Soul is saying? There doesn't need to be any mystery. Srila Prabhupada's very clear. Srila Prabhupada's very clear. As I've said, many times in different capacities. So that's the principle. We approach Krishna through the pure devotee guru. That's the principle. That's what Krishna sets up. No, it's just me and Krishna. Now, but then it is me and Krishna. It is. We do have personal relationship, and that personal relationship with Krishna is developed to the extent that we see through the eyeglasses. That's Srila Prabhupada. Now, we say through the guru. That's the general principle. As you know, for me specifically, that means Srila Prabhupada. I'm not saying there's no one else qualified to be in the role of the guru. So, and as some of you have heard me say many times, if someone says, well, no, I don't want Srila Prabhupada as the guru. I'm going to find someone else. Good luck, truly. Good luck. Actually, I heard from someone recently who was very inspired at that December 3rd program when we talked about this comment. I've heard from a few people in the community that when Parampara Prabhu, Patrick, he mentioned that, because he also with Anasuya and Lakshmi Priya, Mohini and Damayanti and Garuda, he got the formal initiation from Prabhupada in August 23rd, 2020, auspicious date. He first came to Safatov, 2009. He said, yeah, he doesn't know that, Prabhupada is the current link. He's not sure if that's the only authorized system. He said he does know for sure it's the safest system. We could go into why, but I won't. It gets unpleasant if we go into why. But he said, it's definitely the safest system. It completely works for me. And there was someone just this weekend I talked to who said he was very moved by that comment. Like, yeah, that's the safest system. And sometimes it says like, yeah, because there's so many going in the name of guru, even guru and Krishna consciousness, and they have all these scandals and degrading behavior, and they're obviously not pure. I hesitate to go into those conversations too, and I tend, like, if you read my hundreds of pages of writing on these topics, I tend not to go there. I don't go there, because then the implicit statement could be something like, yeah, okay, I'll accept Prabhupada as the guru. But if there were a Prince Charming guru somewhere, or a Princess Charming, then I'd go with him or her. But till then, I guess we had Prabhupada as my default. That's the implicit. Okay, so that's not what I encourage at all. My point of view, and there are so many examples of very distasteful, disgusting things happening in the name of so-called Vaishnav gurus. But it seems like even if I knew for sure there was a pure devotee, Prince Charming or Princess Charming guru, or 10 of them or 100 of them in India or Florida or wherever, if I knew for sure, then what I would do is enthusiastically encourage people to connect with Prabhupada as their current direct link to the Supersoul, as the representative of Supersoul in the heart, meaning that Prabhupada's full availability. And if someone says, I want to go somewhere else, fine, full respect. If someone says, Prabhupada's not available in that role, then that's warrants spiritual anger. That's spiritual violence. Okay, if someone says, wow, Prabhupada's available, but I have a Prince Charming guru over here. Okay, fine, go for it. But so what, even if I knew there was this pure and this one is so pure and this one, the way he looked at me, I knew that he was whatever. So what I would do if I knew there was 1 or 1,000 pure devotee, Krishna conscious gurus, I would enthusiastically encourage everyone to connect with Prabhupada as their current direct link to the parampara, and that's my role in endeavoring to expand the Sankirtan movement and participate in the disciplic succession. So this verse, this is chapter 13, Bhagavad-gita, text 23. Upadrastanamanta chaparta bhakta maheshwara paramatmeti chapyuto desmin pusha para. Yet in this body there is another, a transcendental enjoyer, who is the Lord, the supreme proprietor, who exists as the overseer and permitter, and who is known as the Supersoul. Thanks for your attention to Bhagavad-gita. Welcome at this time. Any questions or comments? I'm just saying, somehow I'm not able to see hands up here because I don't know how to work the controls and something changed. So like if you're online, you'll need to make a sound for me to see you or hear.
Does the view need to be changed?
What's that?
The view just need to be changed to gallery, or?
Yeah, but I tried, but it still doesn't work.
Okay, so it's coming looks like. Go something.
Okay, because I know, like, for example, we got 6 participants here,
Oh, wow.
but I don't see any of them.
Okay.
Hide selfie, that's probably a good idea. There, you did it. Thank you. Hello, KP, Rukmini, Reina, Strumpillo, Parampara, and Anandini. Oh, Parampara, I didn't know you were here, but I referred to you. That's embarrassing. Yeah. Oh my God, and what I said about it. Hare Krishna. There were several persons in the community who were inspired by your comment, Parampara, on December 3rd about the safest system for essential and formal initiation. Any comments or questions? KP, KP, who is KP? I'm not sure who KP is. If you want to identify yourself, I'm just not making KP.
That's me, Komal.
Komal, Hare Krishna.
Hare
Thanks for
Krishna.
joining us. Hare Krishna. I'm glad
Hare
you're there.
Krishna.
Thanks
Yeah,
for-
no question. I just wanted to say thank you.
Glad you're here. Thank you, Komal.
Thank you.
She joined at 5 a.m. as well, just so you know.
Ah, nice.
Kamal and I were there at 5.
Wonderful.
Yes.
Okay, I've got a question.
Sylvan.
I happen to have been in a Bhakti conversation only last night
Yeah.
with Rosemary, and there were talks about about actually Srila Prabhupada's successors, and I somewhat overheard that Srila Prabhupada had appointed someone as to follow the line. And my question is, so even if there were, you said, even if there were 100 pure devotees,
Sure. Yeah.
you would still send everyone to Srila Prabhupada. And how does the parampara works? Isn't the disciplic succession, presumably there will be a successor to Srila Prabhupada, and who is that? And how does that work?
Okay, thank you, Sylvan. Yeah, well, well, one view is that the successor is Sylvan. That, like, let's say there's people in your life and you share with them and you represent Bhagavad-gita and Srila Prabhupada, then you're continuing the disciplic succession. And so that's why I'm endeavoring with a program like this, with the Kirtan and Bhagavad-gita, to continue the disciplic succession. And so we all get to accept responsibility to expand and continue the parampara. So that's what we're doing, and whoever we talk to, that's what we're doing. As far as well, one thing. Okay. So so as far as the idea is like, okay, well, there's the spiritual master and he dies, and then there's the next spiritual master and he dies, and then if we look at the links of the parampara, no, that's like it's rarely if ever worked that way. I mean, it could take that form, but it's rarely if ever worked that way. As far as the Guru, I'm emphasizing Srila Prabhupada is fully 100% available to be the current direct living link to the disciplic succession for anyone who sincerely accepts, follows, and serves him in that capacity. And we all have roles to play, to whatever extent we want to surrender to those roles, to expand Prabhupada's mission and continue the parampara. For example, okay, I tend to speak philosophically rather than legally or administratively. Philosophically, what's the essence of the process of initiation? Anyone, pop quiz.
What's the essence of initiation?
What's that?
You said, what's the essence
Of the process of initiation.
The essence.
Of the process.
Yeah.
Like,
The initiation is a process, not an event. The essence of we just, Lakshmi Priya led us this morning, Chakudan Dilo Ye, Janme Janme Prabhu Se, Divya Gyan Ride Prokashito. So Prabhupada says again and again and again. The essence of the process, give transcendental knowledge that transforms the heart. That's from Anandini. Thank you, Anandini. Divya Gyan, transcendental knowledge that transforms the heart. Transcendental means it's not dependent on anything physical, including physical proximity in the same room or the same planet. So we sing to Prabhupada, you are giving us transformational, transcendental knowledge. Divya Gyan, Ride Prokashito. So that's initiation. So that's what Prabhupada's doing. In his final will and testament, which he wrote on June 4th, 1977, Srila Prabhupada, it's a legal document, signed by Prabhupada, written by Prabhupada, and he lists his different centers at the time, and he talks about the directors, and he says that if a director dies or is removed, that director can be replaced by a new director, and the new director must be my initiated disciple. Prabhupada uses those exact words, my initiated disciple. So it was Prabhupada's vision that his movement would be dead in 40 years, I'm asking seriously. Was his, okay? No. What's his vision? Hundreds of years, thousands of years. Thousands of years. Now, after June 4th, 1977, Srila Prabhupada, he went back and did some revisions on the final will, and he deliberately kept that term, my initiated disciple. So Srila Prabhupada saying hundreds and thousands of years from now, his movement will be led by his initiated disciples. If someone says, I don't want to be initiated by Prabhupada, I found Prince Charming over here. Fine, go for it. If someone says, well, Srila Prabhupada, he can't have initiated disciple. So what are you saying? Prabhupada was senile when he wrote it, he got it wrong, didn't quite understand philosophy as well as you did. What are you saying? What are you saying? Are you willing to sit in front of Srila Prabhupada, stand in front of Prabhupada, say, Prabhupada, yeah, when you wrote that, you made a mistake. You know, we all make mistakes. Are you willing to do that? Go. No, don't really do it, because you'll harm your spiritual life badly. So Prabhupada's saying, in a legal document, Prabhupada's philosophy, Divyagan Vide Prokashito, not. But I heard from someone who said that they heard from someone who went to ChatGPT and it said, talking about signed legal document from the Acharya for the age. He's going to have initiated disciples. He said, no, we get to choose whether we want to be a sincere follower, sincere initiated disciple. Srila Prabhupada, someone says, Prabhupada can't have initiated disciple. Okay, then they're misleading you, they're misguiding you, they're misinforming you. But they're nice people, fine. But spiritually, philosophically, they're not representing Prabhupada. Hare Krishna. Thanks for your question.
You got a buzz from that.
Yeah, it's churning in me. I feel seen.
I do have another question, it's slightly different. Still on something that you said, we've got lots of different voices.
Yeah.
So how to identify the super soul voice?
Yeah. Thank you. Thanks for that. And that requires, the essential function of intelligence is to make distinctions. And so the how comes to, the more we practice the process, and then we get to make distinctions between what's the voice of my material mind, monkey mind, what's the voice of false ego, and what's the voice of super soul. The more we practice, Krishna says in one of the seed verses of Bhagavad-gita, Teshame vanu kampur tamaha magana jantamaha nisayam yatma bhavastoba gyana dipena bhaspata. He says, I dwelling within their hearts, what's that? That's the super soul. This is verse 10.11, Bhagavad-gita. I dwelling within their hearts, destroy with the shining lamp of knowledge the darkness born of ignorance. So that we practice the process, we hear from Prabhupada, he's a representative of super soul. Like Prabhupada's giving us knowledge. He's giving us that intelligence to be able to make that distinction. And I can say for myself that, and yeah, this came in the program at Roses, was it just about 9 days ago or something. We had some exchange with Josie, I remember. And so I asked, well, how do you know? And I said, Prabhupada's very clear. I wish I was more sincere and more surrendered and following Super Soul and Prabhupada more. But when I'm not, I know it. When I'm not, I know it. So whatever, through 46 years in some ways, with some drops of sincerity, trying to study Prabhupada's books, follow the sadhana bhakti process, then so like it's more and more clear to me, compared to even a year ago, which speak of 40 years ago, what's deviating from that highest guidance within and what's following. So we develop spiritual intelligence by following the process. Starting with, we're all following the process, right? Here we are on a Thursday morning, lots of other things we could be doing. And here we are, hearing Bhagavad-gita, discussing Bhagavad-gita. So we're cultivating fine distinction for spiritual intelligence. And Al-Sharata Sadhu Sangato. So we're associating with others who have some interest to follow the process. And then the next stage is actually the initiation stage. I'm talking. The Srila Prabhupada said that he first met his spiritual master Srila Bhaktisiddhanta in 1922, and Prabhupada had some other ideas. This is his transcendental pastime, and he argued with Bhaktisiddhanta. He said, "I argued with him," and he said, later years he said, "I was happily defeated." And he said, I realized I was defeated, but I had different ideas and this and that. I realized, and he said, there in 1922, he said, I dedicated my life to his mission. Prabhupada said, that was the real initiation. So we dedicate our life, because there could be a stage of sauntering, stage of dabbling. I'll get my toes wet, see if I like the water. Okay, and that's fine. And then I'm committing. And then we can use the seminar analogy, just like, okay, I'll pop into the seminar. Ooh, this is uncomfortable. Okay, I'm going to go. Maybe I'll try it again tomorrow, see how it goes. And maybe even we get some value there. But it's like, I'm committed to these ground rules. Even when it gets uncomfortable, I'm not living Guru's heavy like that. So that's the Bhajana Kriya stage. I'm committed. I'm ready to confront myself, challenge myself, look at my deceptions. I'm not going to run away. And then in that crucible, and then in that container, then there's the anartha nivritti. Then purification accelerates, pulling the weeds in the heart, clearing the junk in the junkyard. That accelerates, and that's joyful process, uncomfortable process, and then we sprint towards steadiness and taste and steady taste of the higher taste.
What is transcendental knowledge?
What is transcendental knowledge? Thank you, Valerie. This is it. This is it. I mean, it expands unlimitedly. But we can say a start is realizing, intellectually it's nice, but actually realizing, I'm not the body, I'm not the mind, I'm a spirit soul. That's transcendental knowledge. Okay. Further, but that's very preliminary. If I could come to that preliminary stage, that'd be like a successful lifetime. But that's preliminary. Then, I'm not supreme. I'm the super soul. We can see like matter doesn't move unless it's acted on by a conscious entity, spirit. I think it was someone in the seminar, was it Sylvan or Hari Priya, gave the example, right? Like a chair or a cushion doesn't wish I was in a different room. It was Sylvan. Yeah, I remember it was Sylvan. Okay. Thanks for that. Nice, yeah. Yes, okay. There's a few questions online. Thank you. Anandini. Okay. So then, right, so I won't go through all the analogies. The body changes, there's some constant identity. Oh, so that's that irreducible quantum of consciousness. But then, like, there's so many things there's digestion happening, there's synapses firing. Even when I'm sleeping, I'm just like this whole thing, but the heart's beating. So there's matter moving. I'm not doing it. So there must be another entity there. That's the Paramatma, that's the super. So to realize distinction between gross matter, subtle matter, spirit soul, and supreme spirit soul. This transcendental knowledge. This transcendental knowledge. It's a beginning. This is a beginning that's way beyond what we'll get anywhere else. Want to go further? Okay. Okay. Well, okay, so we've got the supreme entity, the Paramatma. And all the Paramatma does is facilitate my desires. No, we would think, just like I have
I have my relationships and dancing and career, and I eat, and okay, well, the Paramama must have quite a full life, much fuller than mine. And then we get into the pastimes of the Supreme Personality of Godhead with his intimate devotion. So that's further expansions of transcendental knowledge. Transcendental knowledge, 30 volumes of Bhagavad-gita, 17 volumes of Chaitanya Charitamrita, Nectar of Devotion, on and on. So that's, this verse, this is preliminary transcendental knowledge.
So receiving transcendental knowledge would mean realizing this philosophy and
Not
the
just
different
reading
principles.
it and
Not just like knowing it.
yeah, like, well, my experience when reading the Bible is like, it's something like I have to do, and it feels so connected to me. When I'm reading it, it feels so absolute truth. It feels so like obvious, but I'm not realizing anything. Every morsel of it is like like I don't need to look anywhere else. That kind of feeling, I don't know how to describe that, but to me that's what
complete and satisfying, even though it could feel like I have
it
to.
makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
How do I look around and find it in my life? It's been there all along. Oh, and it just kind of swooshes in and feels like perfect sense. I always think of that as transcendental knowledge, but not like I'm realizing it.
Yeah.
I know it is, so I'm keep sticking to it, and hoping some of it rubs off and becomes truth in my heart.
I appreciate your sharing, Valerie and Lakshmi Priya. Yes, this is, so this Bhagavad-gita, everything from Prabhupada, every line reveals transcendental knowledge and is non-different from the transcendental knowledge it reveals. Every line from Prabhupada, every utterance. And that's why, like, I understand, I have this religion, I disagree, or whatever. We experience there's some different quality of vibration here, and because it's coming completely from the transcendental platform. No one needs to trust me. We read Srila Prabhupada, hear from Srila Prabhupada, just like we did. So everything from Prabhupada is transcendental knowledge. And then we can experience a transformational potency. I just talked to someone yesterday who she just, like earlier in the day, before she talked to me, she completed the 17 volumes of Chaitanya Charitamrita. She's been around Prabhupada's movement about as long as me, since the early 80s. And I trust she came to like chanting Hare Krishna a lot quicker than me. She didn't need 1,000 plates of prasad to chant her first round. But we all have our different levels of sincerity. Okay, so but so she's, and she's like a real scholarly person, very inspiring. Reads all of Prabhupada's books. She just finished Chaitanya Charitamrita, and she was like, it's similar to what you just shared, Lakshmi. She said, I'm going to start again. And she said, it feels like I'm going to start again, like that. Like, because especially the first volumes of Chaitanya Charitamrita, it's the densest philosophy in all of Prabhupada. The first volumes of Chaitanya Charitamrita, like chapter 5 of Adi, dense. And she was a little bit like, but she's like, I have no other choice. And no one's forcing her, no one's holding it, but I have no other choice because the experience, the vibration, it's just unmatched, it's unparalleled, and it's just like, it's the austerity I look forward to most.
It's tangible, like my guests notice it when they don't know Krishna consciousness or Prabhupada. When I'm reading Bhagavatam and they walk by or they see me always in it, they can't. They want to know, like, what is that? Like, why are you in here so much? Why do you do that so much? Like, what's going on? If I was reading a novel, they wouldn't say that.
Mm-hmm. Right.
They can tell. Might say, but then it would fizzle.
Thanks for sharing that.
I'm carrying it with me. Like I carry it when I go. I carry this journal and that fourth canto reading. It was part of my uniform, right? So it's like I get a lot of feedback and questions about, not that they want to get some beads and chant and start reading with me, just that they find it amazing that I'm so attracted to it, but when I spell out something I'm enjoying, it makes sense to whatever path they're on. It's uniform law, right? It's natural
Yeah.
law. It's true in whatever path they're on, or even if they're not on a path, they can get the essence of it.
Yeah.
But it's when I read it from another book, it doesn't do that. You know what I mean? It's a, you know, you could read it off ChatGPT. You could read it in a quick summary of what religion is or what life is or what these little points of view, but it doesn't. It's not like that. I don't know how to explain it. You probably can.
I'm very moved by the image you shared. You're just there, you got some Airbnb guests, and they just see you reading, but you get that they get, this is a different quality of reading experience than they've ever witnessed.
There's a reverence almost,
There's-
like
yeah.
she's reading something like
I approach you.
yeah, it's kind of, but it's yeah, there's reverence of when we talk about what I'm reading, or if I can get people to listen about what I'm reading about, they relate to it, they understand it, but yeah, they're not clamoring to the copy, but they're getting some exposure to it anyway. It's just a beautiful experience.
I saw Rosemary, you had your hand up, and I saw there was a chat. I want to get to it. And Nandini wrote, "How do I know that the suffering that I'm experiencing is purification coming from commitment to the purification process, or suffering coming from not following Supersoul? And what is the remedy for the suffering either way?" Thank you, Nandini. Well, as far as the source, well, let's see. Because I see, how do I know that the suffering that I'm experiencing is purification coming from commitment to the purification process, or suffering coming from not following Supersoul? I'm saying like that is the purification process. Material suffering, it's like the GPS system analogy. And so if I'm not following Supersoul, not following Prabhupada, not following highest guidance within, then there's going to be some suffering. St. Augustine said we're not punished for sin. We're punished by sin. Meaning it's not like, oh, you did that, now you'll be punished. It's just like sin, essentially, is to act or speak or think in a way that's alienated from self-realization and from my integrity. And so when I do that, I'm going to experience shame or suffering or something in that category, and that's a purification. I'm going to experience my experience. This experience my experience. It's not just meant to be some new age. Feel your feelings, and that's the goal of life. No, but to be aware and to be experiencing my experience. Okay, then that's a message. That's like the super soul. That's like the GPS beeping or flashing, or whatever GPS does. And so then that's okay. So let me get on track. And then so that is the purification process. Spiritual suffering, yeah. So the spiritual suffering means like it's moving me to. We just read that this morning for Japa about writing. Right, Krishna's Kaviraj, he's suffering. He's feeling lower than a worm's stool, and more sinful than Jagai Madai. So many things. So spiritual suffering leads us to deeper determination, deeper inspiration to serve self-realization and Paramatma connection, to please Krishna, to please Srila Prabhupada. And that's a sign that it's spiritual. So Krishna's Kaviraj, we read about his spiritual suffering this morning, and that moved him not to hide under the covers. It moved him to reveal the Chaitanya Charitamrita. And so what is the remedy? Well, I simply endeavor to represent Srila Prabhupada. I can imagine, there could be complexities and subtleties and nuances, and what is the remedy? Srila Prabhupada would encourage to chant Hare Krishna, to engage in the process, to engage in the transcendental process, to engage in the process where we realize instantaneously and increasingly that we're not the thoughts of the mind, we're not the feelings of the mind, we're not the material body. We're like that. So So to engage in kirtan, Thank you, Anandini. Rosemary, you had a question?
More like some realization to share. Hare Krishna. In my lifetime, I've had questions about what is the meaning of devotion and what is the meaning of commitment, and that has come from observing myself and some alienation. So, let's say, for example, a commitment is this hard line. Well, I gave my word. This is what I'm doing. I've committed myself. This is what I'm going to do. And I have held myself in places that I had outgrown by behaving that way, by alienating myself. It wasn't a relationship. So I've had that question come up with bhakti recently. It's like, well, how would I know the difference between being whimsical about my commitment in bhakti versus like potentially like outgrowing or something like that? And the answer immediately comes of like, bhakti isn't something you outgrow. It's a continuous process that like has new flavor at every turn, as opposed to so many other endeavors in my life where it's like chewing the chewed, and I would become dissatisfied because I'd outgrown something, and yet I insisted on remaining somewhere. And I just wanted to share that came to me from this discussion and the things that you were saying about commitment. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Rosemary. I appreciate your realized sharing about the distinction between commitments in areas that are not directly or even indirectly bhakti, and the difference in quality of committing. Paul Salo's quote, freedom is the ability to commit to our highest good. And so in bhakti, that's our highest good. And so that's a different quality of commitment. We make commitments in our service, in our sadhana, and then this is truly the self-committing to the regular principles of freedom. I'm looking at you on that one. It's self to advance some of our fond memories there. Yeah, Krishna uses that term, regulated principles of freedom. We engage in bhakti commitment, and then we're free to achieve the destination of freedom from lust, anger, greed. And so I saw that on the, thank you, Rosemary, and Nandini wrote, thank you, in response to the response about the remedy for suffering. Bhagavad-gita, ki.
Jai.
Srila Prabhupada, ki.
Jai.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thanks for joining us. Hare.
Hari.